Hi, and welcome to MeanCharles Bench. Today I'm going to show you how to clean and maintain any gas blowback pistol. So this is the WE G18c. It's has an extended mag and a longer inner barrel. So I'm also going to show you how to replace an inner barrel in this section. So I'll show you when we do that, and you can skip to the maintenance halfway through. So let's first of all basically disassemble all the accessories. So this is the longer inner barrel. This is basically just for a longer barrel that can sit inside a silencer. This is not necessarily going to give you more accuracy. What gives you more accuracy is consistency of bore size and the tightness of that bore size. I won't see a big, huge difference, especially in close quarters combat. So let's go ahead and start disassembling this Glock. So how to disassemble it is you pull back the slide, pull down the release tab, and just push it forward, and it will come right off the assembly. So the lower receiver we will put to the side and focus on the main slide. Now, how to disassemble the slide is super simple. This is one of the easiest guns to maintain, especially the hop-up unit once we get into that. The recoil spring assembly is the first thing to come out. Basically, you push that forward, a little nub comes out. You see that little nub? Boop, 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 boop. Comes right out, and you pull it back on a 45-degree angle, and that slides right out. So that's the first step. Second step is releasing the inner barrel and outer barrel. Same way, 45-degree, comes right out. And then you can release the hop-up and inner barrel, and that's the main portion that you need to disassemble for maintenance. Maintenance should be done every 3 games, depending on the player, if you're really rough with your equipment. A good thing to note, if you do use propane, you might want to use a bit more grease and lubricant. And I will basically, what types of oils and what types of greases we use are variant. We can use white lithium grease. You can get that at Home Depot for around $5. You can use like a Dow 57 if you're a paintballer, or special blend I use MeanCharles branded. Wait 1 second. Do I have a sticker? I think I got a sticker somewhere. Yeah, this is my special lube. You can get it nowhere. I don't know where I got it. Anyways, this is what I rely on. So yeah, number 1. Also, you're gonna need silicone oil spray. This stuff is probably the best stuff for airsoft. Don't use WD-40. That's a water-based lubricant that will cause your parts to rust. You need oil-based lubricant. That's why it's silicone oil. Then you also need a Loctite, because that stuff, you don't want it to fall apart, especially if you're rough with your guns. And I'll show you how to spot Loctite in gun assemblies from factory, and you should always replace Loctite where you see it, just as a rule of thumb. You also need like a ramrod. I'm using a bamboo skewer because I'm cool, and I got some Q-tips to look pretty, and also some paper towel. Okay, so let's go into changing the inner barrel. So go ahead and skip through this if you don't want to know how to change an inner barrel. But if you want to learn the hop assembly of a G18 or 17 or any G series, is pretty much the same on all of them. So what you're going to need is a little Phillips screwdriver for this. Where's my Phillips screwdriver? Somewhere around here. Found it! We found it, guys. So Phillips screwdriver, and basically what we want to do is these 2 screws right here, you want to break the Loctite and unscrew them. Now this is one of the simplest hop-ups. I know a lot of people like to mod these because they are so simple that they barely put any hop-up on it. and I'll show you how it works. So basically, you take off the assembly, and you can see the bushing and the clip and the nub, and it basically works off this wheel that pushes down on the bushing, and that's what creates the backspin on the BB. Now I'm going to put the housing back on and flip this around just so it's easier to work with. The wheel will stay on the other end and the clip will stay on that end. Now we're going to remove the bushing. Now it does have a guide right here that fits in the housing. Remember to always watch when removing the bushing where the barrel sits and seeds. And when I do remove it, you can see that that's where the hop up is engaged. So when replacing it with a longer inner barrel, we want to do the same thing on a 45 from that marking. Now the reason why from factory these are so full of silicone oil is shelf life. Rubber tends to break down after a while if it's not lubricated, and this just saves it. So you do want to put a bit of silicone oil on it, but not too much, because remember, if you over lube your guns, the residue will go on the BBs and create bad performance and accuracy. It will basically kind of skip through the air because there's like a glob of grease or lube on the actual BB itself. So just keep in mind, don't over lube but don't under lube, just the right amount of lube. Okay, now we place that into the hop-up assembly. There's little markings to make sure that everything fits well. I like to take this wheel off and put it into the clip and test if it's touching the bushing. And yeah, it scrolls up and down. Remember, fully to the right is completely off, and then fully to the left is completely on. And then we're going to put the rest of the housing on, and it should just seed in. You shouldn't have to force it. Yeah. Cool. Now it's assembled and we need to screw it in. This is where our handy dandy friend for 242 Loctite comes in, a little blue. A little dab will do ya, remember. Not too much. Okay. So there's a white residue on screws that you sometimes are really hard to get rid of or unscrew. That is the Loctite. The blue turns to white once it's fully dry, and once it's fully dry, it's usually 24 hours. Now don't over tight anything. That's what Loctite's meant for. It's meant to keep it locked, so just snug, it's fine. Even pressure on both sides. You should really go back and forth between the screws. And if you always want to check your hop up if there's anything crinkling or anything, and just pop it in with a screwdriver like I just did there, and just make sure that it's fully round and that the hop up actually is engaging, in which it is. And that's basically it for changing your barrels. Now for maintenance, I'm going to change it back to the other barrel because I'm playing with the other barrel, and we'll go with maintenance. Now, how to maintain your blowback pistol. First things first is you want to get all the old grease and grime off the slide and any parts and grooves inside the slide, the outer barrel, the inner barrel, the hop-up assembly. I'm just going to kind of quickly go through this, and same with the lower receiver. And you kind of want to make sure that what comes off of the cloth is generally not too dirty. You're never going to get a completely white paper towel after wiping it, but you want to get it close to clean. That's possible. Remember, clean gun's a happy gun. Okay, and then taking a new piece of paper towel, we're going to clean the inner barrel by using a ramrod, improvised. And remember, before you do this, disengage your hop up. So if it's this angle, it's fully to the left. That's disengaged. It's always important not to destroy the nub on your hop up or the bushing. And then just push that through. And then it's really clean from the factory. They really come dirty. You should always clean your gun from factory because they just mill it and then they forget it because they're mass producing this stuff. Now I'm going to spray a little bit of silicone oil on the swab and go through it again. This will release any kind of dirt and get it onto the paper towel. And you can go again depending on what you like. With another pass-through if you use too much oil, but that should be clean for my liking. Okay, now to add the grease. Now the grease, I use it with my pinky, and I get a little generous portion, and just rub it on any metal contact. So up and down the assembly of the slide itself. You want it to get greased up. And then especially where the outer barrel touches the slide, there's a lot of wear and tear there. And then with the silicone oil, you want to kind of do the valve. So on the valve here, you just pull it forward, spray a couple sprays. I think that's a generous portion. And you want to get that spring in there well lubricated. So just power stroke it a couple times. And that should be good. You can spray a little bit of silicone oil in the lower receiver and on the receiver if you don't have too much grease, but you should generally use grease and silicone oil. Also, Q-tips are great for cleaning the slide. If it's really dirty, get in all the nooks and crannies. It's definitely will make your gun very pretty and shiny. Now moving forward to the assembly. So vice versa, we take the inner barrel and hop up into the outer barrel and slide that in. Make sure that you kind of have some muscle memory to your hop up where you put it last. You can always adjust it later. Insert the outer barrel into the slide, and then the recoil spring assembly goes in next. Pop that bad boy in, let it rest against the hop up housing. Make sure that everything's engaged and looks well lubricated. It does. Now we can put it back on the lower receiver. So just give it a cock back and then power stroke it a couple of times. If you can power stroke your gun, that will get the lubes into any that will get all the grease into any crevices. And then the final maintenance is for your magazines. Now, green gas has silicone oil already in it, so it will travel throughout the gun and lubricate itself. Also carrying anything through the air will attach dust and grime into all the areas. So it's plus or minus, but you should always use lube on your magazines if you use propane, no matter what. So you just put a little bit of silicone oil on the valve. This will prevent it from sticking and leaking. Or I know some guys, they put on the fill nipple of their propane, they just spray some silicone oil on there and it does the same kind of mimic trick of what silicone oil does. Then you can insert everything, make sure that it does indeed make connection with the magazine, everything's okay, and you're basically finished. That's how you fully maintain a G18c WE Glock, or any blowback pistol, and how you change inner barrels. Number 1, I see you on the field. Woo! Pew 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 pew. All right, thanks. Bye bye. Feels so clean. Feel.